So this is my most requested video so far. I know I said that a couple times already, and they've always been true, but this one, like, oh my God, you guys wanted this video. And here's the thing, is like when so many people are waiting for it, I have this feeling like this video has to be freaking perfect. And it stresses me out when I expect myself to be perfect. Okay. You guys aren't doing this. You guys aren't being like, Zoe, this better be perfect. Okay. You guys are not like that. I'm not putting this on you. I'm putting it on me where I'm like, oh my God, it has to be perfect because everyone's watching. Everyone is watching. You have a bunch of subscribers now and everyone is watching because this is the one they've been waiting for. And so I'm like kind of stressing out because it's supposed to be perfect. But you know what? Don't let your own perfectionism paralyze you. Okay. Like I'm just doing it anyway. And this video is going to have plenty of flaws like all my videos do. And you guys are going to forgive them because you're lovely people. It's hot as hell and I was so tempted to not shoot today because I'm sweating and my hair is up and up. Like, oh, I'm having a bad hair day and my glasses are slipping from my face because I'm sweating and this heat and the fan is going and that's the background noise you're hearing. But you know what? Perfectionism is overrated. It's kind of stupid, really. Sometimes you just got to shut up and do the thing. So I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to do this video, you guys, and I hope it helps you. Hey guys, this is drawing clothes video number 2. We're going to talk about drapes and folds today. I hope you already watched Drawing Clothes 1, the video all about wraparounds, because I'm going to be referring to wraparounds repeatedly throughout this video. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, pause this, go watch the other one, and then come back. I will wait. When we draw drapes in design communication, we do a simplified version of real life drapes. Like there's a basis in reality, but we don't draw every single wrinkle. Right? I don't want it to look too smooth. I don't want it to look like we're all in, superhero costumes. A few things to consider. Number 1, always consider the fabric that you are using. Whether you're an illustrator who just simply wants to illustrate something beautiful, or you're a designer and you have to figure out the mechanics and the construction of something, you should have a fabric in mind. If you're an illustrator with not a lot of fashion fabric knowledge, you should still have an idea in mind like, oh, I'm going to paint a tutu and it's going to be this stiff, it's going to be this kind of material, or I'm going to draw a really sharply tailored blazer with really sharp shoulders in like a really crisp suiting. Okay? So you should have an idea of what fabric you have in mind. This is why I always tell designers that you need to have, first of all, your fabrics picked out for the most part before you start designing, so that when you're designing, you know what fabric you're using, and so that how you draw the fabric, how you draw the design, and the actual fabric all go together. And when you're designing, you should have some of the fabric around so that you can play with it, drape with it, like, oh, what would this look like if I put in like a bunch of little tucks running through, and so you can get an idea as to what that will look like. And then you can draw it out more easily, all those things, right? So have a quarter yard, have a half yard, whatever, this is kind of like a weird sectioned rectangle, but you get a feel for the crispness of the fabric, how much it stretches, a little bit, okay? Not so much in this direction, right? So you get a real sense of the fabric before you start designing or drawing with it. Let's say you're designing something with elbow sleeves, okay? Here's your croquis, there's your armhole, and let's say you make the sleeve out of something light and stiff like this. Something like this, it just sticks up. Like if I put this here, it just sticks out, okay? It doesn't fall. And so you're gonna draw it kind of sticking out. It'll crunch in at the armpit and it'll stick out. Whereas if you cut a similar sleeve in this silk charmeuse, which is heavy and slinky and drapey, it's not going to stick out. It's going to fall directly onto the arm. And so there's your armhole, and this silk charmeuse is going to fall and drape close to the body. It's going to fall straight down. So yeah, you have to understand your fabric and know what fabric you're designing with before you can start drawing out your designs, because this is definitely not the same sleeve as this. So study your fabric. You know, thinner fabrics like t-shirt knits, they're going to wrinkle and crinkle really small. When you have sweater knits or fat fleeces, you're going to get big rolling drapes instead. Okay. Something like this, your drapes will be round and luscious. And something like this, I mean, first of all, it doesn't really drape. It just kind of collapses. This is it pulled straight. When I pull it together, it just collapses. It doesn't drape and fall at all. It likes to stick straight out. Okay? And so you're going to draw big, round, rolling drapes like that don't collapse, that tend to stick out when it comes to organza. So number one, consider your fabric. Number two, gravity. Science, y'all, it's a thing. It's an important thing, even in fashion. And gravity, it's a big thing, okay? Things fall, everything falls. Fabric falls. And how things fall, for one, depends on the kind of fabric, like we just went over. And also the pose your croquis is making. So you see these figures and they both have their hips at an angle. Let's say I want to make a circle skirt out of this organza. Because it's so light and stiff, it'll flare out. Here's that waistband from our wraparounds video, wrapping around the hips. And this is kind of the direction of the skirt. It kind of bells out and it would come out like that. Now remember, whenever I draw a hem, I follow the angle of the last fitted place. So the last fitted place was this high hip. And so I'm going to follow the angle for the hem. But as we talked about in the wraparounds video, it's going to be an ellipse, not a straight line. There's the direction of the skirt. There's a circle skirt wouldn't poof out like that. It would be more like that. And then I would put in my drapes that follow this general shape of the skirt hem. Now, if I were to make that same circle skirt, but in this drapey silk charmeuse, it would fall against the body. So again, here's that waistband. And she's also at this angle. And so the skirt would first fall against her hips. And then it would, because of the slinkiness, fall straight down. I mean, there's still some fabric, so it wouldn't cling to her like this, but it would fall. Here, her hips are kind of moving out of the way of gravity, so to speak. And so this part would just fall like so. And then, again, this is the direction of the last fitted place. And so that's the direction of my hemline. We're going here. And we're going to put in the drapes following this basic shape. And we're following gravity. Do, do, do. Like so. Number 3, everything wrinkles at bends. Okay. This is a not very drapey sleeve at all. Okay, it doesn't have a lot of excess fabric, but when you bend the elbow, you're gonna get wrinkles. When you bend the knee, you're gonna get wrinkles. Anytime a joint moves, you're gonna get at least one wrinkle. Of course, that wrinkle is going to look different depending on the fabric that you're using, but you're going to wrinkle at every joint. When you have a leg that's bent like this, of course, there's no wrinkle here because it's getting pulled smooth, but you're going to have a wrinkle here for the rest of the pant leg. Something that's bent ever so slightly like this, I wouldn't. You know, I would have a little tiny fold there, but not a full-on wrinkle. With this sleeve, okay, fall, bend, fall, wrinkle, 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 coming down, kind of squished into the wrist here, like so. Now, when you do your wrinkles, remember our wraparounds video. Your wrinkles are not really going to be straight. They're going to follow the curve of whatever you are wrapping around. So here we have that foreshortening, so my wrinkles are wrapping around the elbow in this direction. My wrinkles are wrapping around in this direction. If I were to put pants on this figure, here's my waistband. This is the leg coming out of the hip. And so I'm going to have wrinkles here. And I'm going to follow the pelvis like so. This is sticking out, so I'm going to have crotch whiskers there as well. So number 3, wrinkles at the bends, and make your wrinkles follow your wraparounds. Number 4, you need to address pulling from different body parts. You know how you look at illustrations of people wearing clothes and you see these kind of diagonals coming across the body and you're like, how do you do that? What's that all about? Are those random? No, they're not random. I mean, hopefully they're not random because they're not supposed to be random. They're supposed to show you the direction the body is moving and like how the fabric moves with that body and how it's affected by gravity and the fabric, all of these coming together, right? But it's really about the direction of the body part. When you look at this arm that's bent like this, you're going to have a pull. The fabric is going to pull. And it's not a reflection of a poor fit. It's just, it's fabric pulling because you're bending your elbow. So it's going to pull from your armpit. It's going in this direction. It's pulling out. And then here, it's pulling from the outer elbow into the wrist like that. So if you have a sleeve, here's your wrinkles at the bends, ellipses for the hem. It's going to pull this way, and then it's going to pull back this way. Here, this one is barely bending, and so I'm not going to have the same kind of crinkles, but it's still going to have that soft pull, because that's the direction it's going in. She is slightly twisted. This part is a little bit more frontal than this part. She's twisting. And so if I were making her wear a very skin tight bodice, then I would pull these wrinkles across like that because she's doing this thing. When it comes to pants, this leg is straight up and down for the most part. I mean, it looks curvy because of the gesture I drew it in. So the pull is, it's from this high hip downward, aka gravity. So here's my crotch whiskers. Here's my pant leg. Here's that wraparound for the hem. Here's this falling, and then this is falling down like that. And from this hip to the ground is that drape line. Okay. Again, here's your wrinkles. A little wrinkle at the knee. And again, there's the drape from this crotch coming out. With a bent leg like this, here's her waistband. Little wrinkle where she lifted her thigh, coming down. is going to pull from her butt to her knee, and then from her knee to the back of her leg. Pull, pull. If she were wearing a skirt, it would be the same. Fall down with gravity. This is coming down like that, and it would fall this. She would have a pull here and a pull here. And you would know that her knee is coming out there like that. When you draw pull lines, you also have to consider how tight it's pulling, how tight the garment is, how stiff it is. If you were drawing an arm like this, where it's bent tight and it's really pulling on the fabric and it's in a stiff fabric like denim, you would draw these crisp elbow drapes. Things would pull this way and it would be pulling from the elbow like that. On the other hand, if you had the same denim and it was just relaxed, you would just see basically like one wrinkle in the fold, just like one kind of drape fold. Because it just gives it a more 3D look than if you just had a tube. Okay, just a little, and it just adds a little dimension, right? All right, to recap, number 1, consider the weight and the stiffness and the drape of your fabric. Number 2, think about gravity, always. Number 3, consider wrinkles anywhere your body bends or turns, and obey your wraparounds when you draw those wrinkles. And number 4, consider pull from the direction your body parts are moving. Okay, now let's put all that together to draw some garments. Let's say I want to take this silk charmeuse and do a slinky shirt dress. So my collar always wrapping around the neck and trapezius, coming down, little shirt collar, and it's falling on my shoulders nicely. Here are my armholes. Here's my waistband. I'm going to drop it from natural waist a little bit, and it's going to have a bit of a drape, little boxy, coming down. Here are a few gathers, very light. And here's the direction of my placket. And I'm going to do a little poof sleeve, but even poofing it, the charmeuse is so heavy that it'll collapse. And then there are my cuffs. And then I'm going to have a gathered skirt. Here's the general direction of my hem. I'm going to have gathers following the body and gravity. Now let's design this. Let's draw the same thing in the organza. The collar, because of its construction, would be pretty similar. Of course, the rendering would be all sheer, but it's not what this video is about. And then we have our waistband again, and our armholes. Now, the drapes around the tummy are going to be stiffer, and so it's going to stick out more because it doesn't want to collapse like the chiffon. And I make them less curved. Poof sleeves with the organza, they would poof out. They wouldn't collapse down, only when you got to actually cuffing it. And then to have a gathered skirt, this would stick out quite a bit. And these gathers would follow this direction. And again, following this angle using your ellipses. And those are your 2 dresses in those 2 different fabrics. So let's do a series of tops for this guy. I mean, honestly, none of these rules would change with gender or body type. That's ridiculous. So let's say we take this wool Melton and give him a coat. Okay, it's thick, it's fairly stiff. I mean, it's soft, but there's a certain stiffness to it because it's A, wool, and B, so thick. So it's not going to be slinky like the charmeuse, but it collapses and drapes. It doesn't stick straight out like the organza. Okay. It's not thin and crisp like this, so the wrinkles are going to be a bit bigger. So we're going to wrap this lapel around. I'm going to give him a collar. It's going to follow the center front. There's the roll. There's the collar. And, you know, armpits always get a drape. There's always some draping going on in here. And it's going to fall straight down. Okay, not slinky and drapey. It's going to wrinkle. So it's going to pull from the shoulder into the elbow. And wrinkle at the elbow because he's bending his elbow. Because of gravity, the fabric is going to fall on the top part of his arm. And this is going to hang a little bit like that. Your ellipses are going to do this. And there's going to be the pull line of his arm. Let's pretend that his jacket is buttoned, but he's pushing it back to put his hand in his pocket. So we're going to push it back like that. And the pull is coming from the button. And it's going to crinkle his jacket. And it's going to fold in there like that. And it's going to pull a little bit just because everything is pulling like that so a little bit. Let's give him a shirt in this crisp shirting. Wrapping around the neck, collar stand, a little drop shoulder, really crisp. Again, coming across and bending, but all my wrinkles are, I have more wrinkles and they're smaller. This fabric is light and a little bit stiff, and so it's gonna stick away from the body a little bit. So there's my cuff, and it's gonna kind of be out a little bit. Center front placket is gonna follow the direction of center front, and if you were wearing pants, and you know, you had it tucked in a little bit, and it's nice and fitted, so it's not. There's his side seam, a little bit crisp. Like so. Now let's put him in a sweater in this super chunky knit, and everything, like the rolls are super drapey and heavy, and all the folds are really fat. So let's give him a round crew neck. When you are drawing fat fabrics, you have to draw it away from your croaky figure. There's your dropped armhole. Armpits always get a drape. You know, I'm going to have like kind of one big sort of, here's his little rib trim. Like so. Mushy, big, roly-poly drapes. Drop armhole. And this falls, but it poofs out still. It's very bulky. If you had a side seam, it would be there. I like a little bit of a kind of a roll thing going on when I have big sweaters like this. And then there's his other arm. Here are a pair of pants. So again, here's my waistband. Here is my center front closure. And crotch whiskers. This is going this way, and these are going this way. This is falling against the body, and then this is a straight line, and so I'm going to bring it down like that. And there's that. There's the ellipse of her hem, and I'm going to give a soft drape line from this hip to this ankle, like so. This leg, first of all, it's bent, and so you're gonna have crinkles around the knees, and you're gonna have, it's pulling because it's more in action, so you're gonna have a drape line across the thigh. And then this pant leg at the calf is going to be foreshortened. So we're here. We're here. This is coming in. So I'm going to have a pull line like that. It's going to wrinkle around the knee, and it's going to fall back here, and it's going to hang down because of gravity. And then you're going to have a pull line from the knee down to the ankle. And it doesn't really matter how wide the pant leg is. If you're doing skinny jeans, you're not going to see all these drapey things, but you're still going to have crotch whiskers. You're going to have crinkling around the knees and then crinkling around the ankle. And because of the tight fit, you're going to have pull lines at each joint. That was a lot, right? That was super a lot. I know. You know what I'm going to say next, right? Go practice. Go draw things. Go draw basic clothes and get a handle for drawing basic shape garments on the bodies, you know, basic shirts, pants, skirts, before you can start going off and drawing kind of crazy ass avant-garde things. And the best way to practice drawing is to draw from real life. However, that is not always available to us. So the second best thing is to draw from photographs. And I highly recommend that you guys pull pictures similar to things that you wanted to design and draw from them for practice. For example, if you're someone who likes to draw or design really boxy shapes, go look up a designer who designs very boxy shapes and, you know, just scroll through, you know, style.com, vogue.com, whatever, all those websites, and find a designer you like and, you know, look at those shapes, study those shapes and how to draw those shapes so that when you design your own boxy shapes, you kind of have an idea on how to draw boxy shapes. Okay? I do recommend that you guys stay away from lookbooks. Most lookbooks, like 95% of lookbooks, there's a stylist back there who is taping and smoothing and pulling and clipping these outfits within an inch of their lives so that they look as pristine and wrinkle-free as possible in the photographs. And clothes, I mean, they lose a little bit of their life in that way. You know, they look perfect and beautiful, but almost like statue versions of the clothes. And so you're not going to get a real feel for how things drape and fall naturally. So don't look at lookbooks. Don't look at clothes where you really can't see any wrinkles at all, because even someone in a spandex suit will have crinkles somewhere. So don't follow those, but try to find one where they're posed a little bit more naturally and you do see some drape lines and, you know, study those drapes. I have 3 more videos in this series planned after this one on drawing specific construction elements like pleats and tucks and smocking and whatnot. I have another one all about how to draw moving drapes on walking figures or figures in the wind, twirling around, capes billowing, you know, whatever. And I have a 3rd video planned all about how to shadow all these drapes. If there's something or a broad category of something that I haven't covered, leave me a comment below to make sure that it gets included in the Drawing Clothes series. If you are interested in learning how to draw drapes for evening gowns and longer gowns and things like that, I do have a fashion vocabulary video dictionary for bridal in the queue, so stay tuned for that. And I hope this video was helpful for you. Drop me any questions you have in the comments below. Check the info box, of course, for anything I may have posted that might help you. Yeah, share, like, subscribe as you do, and I will see you next time.